Hello, welcome to this video showing modeling excellence in mathematics. In this video I'll contrast the way it's done in Caribbean and in Guyana, in Singapore. Let's look at a certain teaching channel and contrast it with the Singaporean way of teaching mathematics. The traditional classroom, you have a blackboard, you have students sitting in the class. The teacher, this is the factory model way of teaching that we have inherited in the Caribbean for years, introduced by the British. It worked in the past, but it's no longer working. It's no longer effective. Based on results, the traditional classroom structure and way of approaching mathematics is not functioning. Typically, you'll see the teacher in front of the class, the authority figure, talking, explaining to the students sitting in the class. They go through mechanical routine. Teacher explains the idea, the problem, using abstract numbers like numbers and formulae and so on. Students listen attentively for hours, sitting motionless in the classroom, paying attention to the teacher. What is happening here is they're absorbing the information passively. They're sitting down just listening, absorbing the information. This is an example of rote learning, where they absorb the information and they are expected to regurgitate the information later at the exam time. Now contrast that with the Singaporean way. Now Singapore tops the world, yes, tops the world in mathematics and sciences. The students at grade 4 and grade 8, when compared with other countries, England for example, the USA, Russia, Canada, Singapore students excel in mathematics. That's why I suggest that we should model excellence the way Singaporeans go about teaching mathematics. So how do they do it? The Singaporean educators and teachers teach strategies. Compare, and they teach students how to compare things, compare ideas, items, numbers, and so on. They teach them how to sequence things, items, using objects, using models. They teach them to visualize the problem. They represent the problem so that the students can easily visualize the problem. They teach them strategies such as look for a pattern. Contrast that with the way it's done in the traditional classroom. They teach the students to look for a pattern. They teach the students also the strategy of working backwards. And they teach the students the before and after concept. In another video, I've gone into depth explaining these approaches, these strategies, and how they work, and how you can use them. Let's continue with our compare and contrast. Here we have the traditional classroom setting again. The students are like in a box in a classroom, sitting fixed there in their seats for an hour. Boredom creeps in. The stuff on the board has no personal meaning to them. Copy notes to go home. Poor retention when tested 3 days later. They may be able to recall less than 10% when tested 3 days later. Contrast that with the Singaporean way. Remember, they are top performers. In Singapore, they teach them high-level thinking. Students are encouraged to discuss among each other. Not so in the classroom over here. Students are encouraged to discuss among each other the problem. They teach them problem-solving strategies, as I mentioned earlier in the video. They teach them how to plan to solve their problem, not just repetition of facts and figures and numbers. They teach them how to solve the problem. and students plan. They sit down in the classroom and they plan among themselves how to go about solving the problem. Then they review how they solve the problem. The students review how they solve the problem. They are encouraged to use multiple approaches. Contrast that with the traditional method. They are encouraged to use multiple approaches, and they are encouraged to think through the problem aloud. In the classroom, students explain out aloud how they solve the problem. So what is the outcome of this approach? Students discuss among each other the problem. They plan. The students talk to each other and plan how to go about solving the problem. Contrast that with the traditional method. So what's the outcome? How do we know that this is the better way than this way? Well, Singaporean students get top grades. Whereas what happens? Caribbean students fail mathematics. Singapore top the world. Singapore students top the world in mathematics consistently. They beat America, Russia, Britain, Canada. So, what is doing is proven to be effective. Their teaching strategies have been proven to be effective. That is why I suggest that we should model excellence using the Singaporean way.